So I was doing some research on criminality, crime, families, the Gambino family, mafia, all this type of stuff. And I realized that the government, the American government, probably every other government on the planet Earth, and mafia, or like these crime families, they're pretty closely related. Like they're quite similar in the way they behave and move. You see what I'm saying? Like they use violence to achieve their ends. They instrumentalize violence. They threaten people with violence to get what they want. They're hyper focused on power, which is just positioning. Like Donald Trump is in a particular position in the world, but because he can send people out to Iran and go kill little girls in Iran. You see? Or he can just steal people's tax dollars without getting in any real trouble. Like everybody knows he's a thief. Everybody knows he's a psychopath, but he's in a particular position, a power position. That's basically all it is just positioning. And he can pretty much do whatever the hell he wants, especially since the average American isn't revolutionary and they aren't action oriented. They're too focused on me. And I was doing a bit of research on Nazi Germany and the Third Reich. And one of the researchers who was heavily informed about that time period was saying that basically the average person didn't care about what was happening to the Jews, the average Germans. They didn't care about what was going on with the Jews because the average person just doesn't care about anything. They don't care about anything except like things that are very immediate. And I feel like I almost can't blame people for being that way. But I just feel like it's a profound level of selfishness to not care about things that are going on beyond you. You know, the world is so much bigger than you. The world is so much greater than us. Too many of us are narcissistic. We think that we're extremely big and large, and if we die, the world will stop spinning. And I can promise you, no one cares. And nobody cares about me. Nobody cares about you. Nobody cares about the next guy who's about to listen to this. Nobody cares about anything. And we don't care about each other enough. Like as a human collective, the white supremacists in particular. People hear me talk about the white supremacists a lot. I like to talk about these guys. They get angry whenever I mention them. These people are easily manipulated and controlled. But yeah, the American government is immoral, just like the crime families are immoral. And another thing I realized when I was looking into the Gambino family and crime and all this type of stuff is that people have no integrity, and people will do anything for positioning. People will do anything for money. Human beings are not to be trusted. Most of us have no integrity. Most of us have no honor. Most of us have no morality. And that's why things are just always bad in the world. I'm willing to say that the world has always been immoral. Like, sometimes I can get hopeful and optimistic and think like, oh, well, maybe the world wasn't always such a grimy, disgusting, greasy place. But now the world has probably always been evil, and it's always probably been wicked people ruling over others, because the type of personality that you have to want to rule over others is one of viciousness, ruthlessness, deceit. Things like this is how you rise up and get to the cream of the crop in politics and stuff like that. You have to be a bit merciless. And also, I mean, if you want to rule over people, you're not a very like well-adjusted person. You're seeking things that are a bit, you're doing too much. You want to control others. You're tripping. You think you're a god. Think too well of yourself. And of course, this is going to lead you to do things that are quite insane. Another thing I want to talk about is how dangerous the world actually is. It's kind of hard for me to put my brain aside average people's brain because I'm not an average person. So it's hard for me to think and like understand certain aspects of the average person's brain. So I don't think people understand, average people in general, I don't think they understand how ruthless and cold the world actually is. Another thing I found out when I was researching the Gambino family is that an underboss by the name of, I don't remember, um, he ended up, it was an underboss, he ended up killing or getting his superior killed. The underboss is the second guy in charge. So the underboss, and then there's the head honcho, the top dog. He ended up getting his superior killed, and the way he did it, we don't know. The guy ended up missing for a decade. He was here one day and he was gone the next. He went missing for a decade, and then the police finally pronounced him as dead. It's over with. He's done. And that is it's a very terrifying thing. There are people like this in this world who will get you and take you out at the drop of a hat. You know, you got real brazen types like Albert Anastasia, who are the head of corporations called Murder Incorporated, because they're just so ruthless. They're so sociopathic, and they're so evil and malicious, and they want to control people, and they want to use violence and murder as their primary means of control. And they're nutcases. There are people like this walking around the planet. People may know that, oh, I did a bit of jail time, because I am like that. I definitely am. And I met some of these people. I grew up in the suburbs like a lot of you people listening, a lot of you normal people. I grew up in the suburbs like you guys, but I wanted something different. I wanted it to be hard. I wanted it to be strong. I wanted to have honor. I wanted it to be feared and respected. So, of course, with that driving me as my subconscious motor, you know, I made some decisions that landed me in jail. And I met individuals like Albert Anastasia, you know, and Albert Anastasia was he was a powerful person in the Gambino family, and he rose to power through force and violence. This guy was a sociopath. He was feared amongst the gangsters. You know how ruthless and terrifying you have to be feared amongst gangsters? You know how this guy would torture people? This guy would kill innocent people. This guy was going crazy. This guy was a madman. So I met people like Albert Anastasia in jail, you know? There's this one guy I met. His name was tall, light-skinned guy in Brazoria County. People who are abreast to the news, they'll know who I'm talking about. He killed this old lady and just took her phone. And they say he did it just cause, and I believe that he did it. His name was Davenport. That was his name. So this guy Davenport ended up killing this lady as she was walking out of a store, and he essentially did it without reason. He just kind of did it because he felt like it. There are people like him. There are people like this guy who I met named Johan. When I was 16, Johan, I'm away from the cars now, so it should be the audio should suddenly be better. But there's this guy I met at that same juvenile detention. His name was Johan. Johan was the most influential man I had met up until that point. This was this guy is the reason that my time there was so transformative. It was extremely transformative. And he was exactly what I wanted to be. A gangster, money, women. He had everything I wanted. And he was the type of individual you could look at him and you could tell he's caught bodies before. He's done things that people are scared to do, that people are terrified to do. The average individual would never even think of doing. Or, you know, they wouldn't even consider it. And he had that presence. He had that demeanor of, I'm a killer, I'm a gangster. And we all knew. So he was another one of these types that would get you up out of here and not think twice about it. He was one of these types who would get you up out of here and later on have a laugh about it. You see, like, the world is extraordinarily dangerous. Human beings are extraordinarily dangerous. People are out here disrespecting people and talking crazy and being a bit too reckless for their level of ruthlessness. And a lot of people, they're behaving too recklessly for their inappropriately. You know, they're not violent enough. They aren't established enough. They aren't well positioned enough to be acting as brazen as they are. You see, like this was a guy. I mean, he would get extremely hot over small stuff. That's how psychotic he was, and that's how psychotic this Albert Anastasia dude was. You know, these sociopathic personalities, they get so angry, so psychotic. They're sensitive. Their egos are so fragile. They're so sensitive, like children. You know, he would get so hot over small things. I remember one time I whooped his ass in this card game, and I was like, yeah. I was talking to the CEO. I was like, after I beat him, like, you know, I'm bragging. I'm like, yeah, I finessed this nigga. So he's finessing off a bet, and he said it so just callously, like we didn't have any rapport, like he wanted to take my life. You see, and it's like all the friendship and all the connection we had was thrown out the window once he got mad. You know, he's a childish individual. You know, he wants blood on his hands. That's his form of communication. That's how he gets through to people, you know. So people are behaving too recklessly out here. People are being too disrespectful out here, and they don't realize, like, there are people out here who would take your life. You know, people who you've disrespected already, who are coming back to take your life. You see, people got to be more respectful. I know people hear me talk on the internet and think like I'm out here being rude or whatever. I'm not. I'm actually quite respectful, because I don't want my head blown off, at least too prematurely. Eventually, yeah, I want to go out like a warrior, but now's not the time. I have to survive and last. You know, I want to do great good in this world, but yeah, that's one thing. And also, like, the females, like, you females need to get in check as well. Like, y'all behave like uncivilized, subhuman organisms. Y'all behave like y'all are unworthy of life. You guys need to stop acting that way. And don't really have much else to say. Pretty tired of talking, so